Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. I'm your host, John Radhouse, and pardon for the delay, but on this episode, I'm joined by Keith Stewart, a lifetime member of the PGA of America, teaching professional up and down the East Coast, and now he's in the betting game for your benefit through his Read the Line brand, many other outlets. Make sure to check him out on social. This was a unique episode. Here we are in Sea Island, Georgia, for the last PGA Tour tournament of the year. I got the last second call to Caddie for Matthias Schwab, and Keith is here to cover the event, so we linked up for the first time in person. We had dinner, a few beers, and then recorded this podcast. Keith is a fascinating guy, great insights, and I love his delivery. This dude can teach you how to hit a long iron and read from a teleprompter. I've even seen him rap, but he's been on a heater this year, picking winners on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour. We also talk about his 5 years spent at Isleworth Country Club in the early 2000s, where he hung out with Tiger Woods on a regular basis, even Payne Stewart before he tragically passed away. Keith has some great takes on T-Dub for December and next year. He's close to his circle, and he goes back and reminds us of one of the craziest days on tour this year, Saturday at the Players. We packed a lot of conversation into this episode. Hope you enjoy the banter Under the Strap. All right, welcome to another edition of Under the Strap. I'm here with my boy, Keith Stewart from Read the Line.
Read the Line.
Unbelievable. I want to hear about all your stuff. PGA of America, member, teacher, great friend. We had dinner tonight. Got a little seafood here in Sea Island, Georgia.
I mean, the shrimp was unbelievable. You know, it just not enough Old Bay.
Yeah, we went with the peel and eat, and we got a little messy, and it was fine.
Catch of the day was flounder, crab crusted. You had blackened. I don't go the blackened route. I don't know, a little too Cajun-y for me.
Cajun-y. Yeah. You said you don't like spice.
Not too much.
Yeah. It was good. And then, of course, we had some of God's tears.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, some Coors Lights, which, I mean, you can't beat that. And I learned how
delicious
they became, that they're God's tears. But, I mean, here we are this week. You've traveled a little bit this year. You've gone to a number of tournaments, and this is kind of everybody's finish line this week. I'm here caddying for Matthias Schwab, I'm just last second call. I'm elated. This is fun. My fourth tournament caddying this year. You've covered a bunch this year. You're showing up. I mean, it's going to be a fun week.
You know what? We've done a bunch of these virtually, and for the last week of the year, it's very apropos that we're together.
Yep.
Finally get to meet in person, have dinner tonight, talk about all these different things, and then get the mic out, and then let's break it down for everybody here. Let's get under the strap.
Let's get under the strap. I like it a lot. I mean, let's talk a little bit about this week in particular,
sure,
because you've been here a lot. You've played in some events around here. You're familiar with the area. I mean, the plantation course is kind of second time around for this one, but you know what's going on here. You actually dropped some knowledge for me tonight about the grain and the greens in the low country and stuff. I was fascinated by that, but just tell us a little bit about, being here in Sea Island.
Well, I'll tell you, it is truly a special place. And it was one of the first resorts in America that was going for that like Chevron stamp, that 5-star Ritz-Carlton, rating. Everything about the place is kind of like Disney World if they owned a golf course. I mean, everybody, they love working here. They love having you here. Yeah. And, that means a lot when you're talking about food and beverage, or you're talking about maybe the range. But I'm telling you, everything down to the agronomy of this joint is just first class. And Brandon Veal, the director of golf operations for all the golf courses here with Sea Island Golf Club, is a true gentleman, award-winning professional, just does a fantastic job. And I can't say enough nice things. And I've come down, I've coached players here in the Jones Cup. I've played in Pro-Am invitationals, national ones, brought some members down from the club of mine that I used to work at. So I've experienced this place from a player's point of view, from a coach's point of view. And then this week, I can't wait to look at it from a coverage point of view, because to see the best in the world compete here is going to be kind of special.
So you haven't covered this tournament before?
Not here live, no.
Yeah.
First time live.
Yeah. And you're handicapping things now. I mean, you've done a great job. You handicap events very well. You've been killed on the ladies tour. You've had a lot of nice winners on the guys tour this year too. I guess when you've been handicapping this week and you think about what you know about this golf course, what are you, really counting on this week?
I think what's important, and it goes to like what you deal with maybe like within a shot. You're out in the fairway and you're trying to limit distractions, and you're trying to get the guy honed in on his routine, stick to his approach, hit the best possible shot he can hit. Mm-hmm. And I think there's going to be a lot of distractions this week. The first one's going to be the weather. Everyone's going to, what wave are they in? Who's going to get the good wave? Who's going to get that?
Right.
Trust me. You can't predict anything right here on the Atlantic Ocean, right? I've been here before. I've played rounds where one day it's 65 degrees, the next day it's 45 degrees, and they're going to see all of that this week. They're going to see some wet weather, some wind. So get the distractions out of the way. What do you need to do to play well at Seaside and Plantation? You have got to hit greens in regulation, and you've got to capitalize on opportunities. Now, what's interesting, prior to the Davis Love redesign of Plantation, those greens didn't have as much movement as they do now. And that golf course is a little more protected, so they get away with it. Seaside, even though it's a nice little Fazio layout, the greens are pretty flat. And this is why great putters are better on greens where you can make putts, because they make them. You know, if you take great putters, yes, they'll two putt a lot at a place that's very challenging, like at Augusta National or major championship venue. But like, they don't stand out like they would if you could make a lot of 15 footers.
Gotcha.
And that is why the blueprint this week has got to be hit as many greens as you can, proximity to the hole, opportunities gained, all those fun stats, and then strokes gained putting. We don't get a lot of weeks where strokes gained putting is a factor, but look at Taylor Gooch last year. Over 6 shots gained against the field on approach, over 5 shots gained on putting. We thought it was going to be Finau. Tony Finau.
We were all in on Finau. We had our stories written up. We had our interviews lined up. Winning Caddie interview. Hey, and they're like, nah, we're done for the year. We're packing in. Well, we're going to go to Tiger's tournament, but we're going to take a little time off.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about that. They had something planned because Tony was coming. That they wanted to take a picture on Sunday with the President's Cup and the the RSM Cup, right? But because they needed someone who was at the President's Cup to win, right?
Oof, not going to happen.
Now we're down to Zach Johnson.
Right. But man,
maybe Kisner.
Kisner, yeah. I saw some people fading Kisner.
Yeah, but they were the tournament representatives today when the Tony message came through the media center. It was not a popular
but he was a late ad too, so it was kind of just like it was never meant to be. What's your number with the wind coming in? And the cold weather? What's your number one tip for amateurs dealing with elements like that? Cold and just like maybe like this steady, north wind. North wind is a different thing than a south wind. So a north wind, steady.
North wind tends to be a little bit of a harsher wind. It's usually cooler. All right. So that's going to reduce ball flight. I think probably the most important thing that anybody that wants to play better in the wind, crosswind, downwind, is that they got to get a little more shaft lean. All right. They got to get the handle ahead of the ball when they hit it. And, when the ball's on the ground like that, you want to trap it. And the easiest way to do that is to get that weight towards that front foot in transition. Right. And I think that, we could go into this at length, but overall, most people tend to scoop the ball that are amateurs and it gets up in the wind and it causes a lot of problems. Great players hit their long irons high and their driver high and their short irons low. And when you think about that, it's kind of the opposite of what amateurs might think, but that just shows a certain level of ball control and compression at impact. And I think that's one of those things that if you're at home and you get out to the range, get a little more weight forward as you strike the ball and get that handle ahead. Trap it a little.
And I would say one more club is going to help it so that it's not that spinny trap, right?
Well, I'll tell you what. Every amateur, right? What is we always hear? They never hit it hole high, and they never read enough break, right? So if you just switch those two things in your life, double all of those reads, then chances are you'd probably shoot your career around.
And you were telling me this week that super grainy greens out here. I mean, you've been out here a lot, and you were saying that on a straight putt with some grain. You're saying that grain's affecting the ball up to like a half a cup.
Yeah, half a cup, 2 inches for sure. And, the big thing there is that's probably, I was over dinner conversation. That was probably from about 8 to 10 feet. What happens when you're 25 feet? Or what's the exaggeration when you're with the grain, but maybe you're straight down grain? How much more is that ball going to roll out when it's flat versus when you're into the grain? And how do you read grain and do all of those things? There is a reason why that certain guys play good on coastal Bermuda. And it's different than going down to, let's say, Orlando or even the Honda or something like that, where they've switched over a lot of grasses. API is that Tiff Eagle Bermuda. Then that stuff's a much tighter strain than this coastal mess that they have up here or they have at the Heritage. So, the guys, there's no mystery why the same guys putt well at these places all the time. And especially good Bermuda putters on Seaside will make a ton of birdies, because those greens have to be flat because it's a coastal golf course. There's no trees out there. The highest thing there is a dunes plant, shorter than you and I.
That's true. Okay, so good putters this week. So I'm going to ask you for your pick at the end of the week. I'll put you on the spot.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to give me your best one. But, I mean, you were, like I said, you were out on tour a lot this year. You went to the PGA Championship. I know that. I don't know what else you went to. I know you went to a few others. I guess when you look back on this season, you know, this year, I guess we'll say, because we're into a new season now, what are some of your favorite memories of the golf you saw this year?
Oh, boy. All right. So the whole spring, it was kind of a joke. Every time I showed up, it rained. Okay. So I was at the Players, and soon after I showed up, Noah showed up. He started collecting animals. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'll get back to that, though, because that was probably the craziest memory that I have all year. Okay. Tulsa started out, it was in the 90s. By Saturday morning, I watched Tiger for like 6 or 7 holes play early in the morning. It had dropped 20 degrees in temperature. The country club, awesome. Mm-hmm. Went to a bunch of ladies events. Yeah. Wells Fargo down in DC. It was, somebody said it was May, but it felt more like, I don't know, March.
That was the
February.
Homa won over Keegan
and Cam Young.
Yeah. And Cam Young.
Yeah. Okay. I had 2 second places that week. Was not happy.
You're really high on Cam Young, aren't you?
Oh, well, I tell you what, especially on a golf course like that, where you have to drive it long and accurately, you know, not what you need this week. These are resort courses. Sure. They are forgiving off of the tee. Now, you'll notice if you get into the stats a little bit that driving accuracy is at a premium here, but that's because most of these holes are surrounded by some form of a penalty area, wetlands, marshland, tree line, out of bounds, something like that. Gotcha. So hitting the fairway isn't tough, but if you miss the fairway, there's a huge penalty for that. So the guys really kind of truncate the driver and they'll hit whatever it takes to kind of get in position because they aren't long golf courses. Yeah. But I got to get back to the answer to your question, right? So out on tour, saw a lot of ladies golf this year. Saw the KPMG at Congressional. You know, we're going to see a PGA and a Ryder Cup there at some point. Yeah. What they redid there was unbelievable.
Did you like that?
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I caddied that one time. I think when it was Tiger. I don't know what it was. It was a playoff event or something, but it was cool. I liked it. But the redo, you don't have to start on that. Do you have to start on that par 3 still? Number 10, is that a par 3?
Yes, it's still number 10.
Still number 10.
But it's not. It's nowhere near what it was brutal. Before. It's still pretty brutal. It's just not as long.
Okay, now it's long.
Yeah, now it's like a peninsula green rather than hitting across the pond.
Right. Yeah. It was always a tough club to start your day,
and it's elevated.
Yeah. It was
back in those days, it was like 210.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you could put 2 in the water and just walk to the clubhouse and just say, hey, guys, I'm not going to play this week.
I'm feet out. I'm out. Yeah, for sure. You know, 2 things that strike me about this year. I went to back-to-back majors. Yeah. I went to Southern Hills, and I went to the Country Club.
Yes.
Both places redone by Gil Hans, and they couldn't have been more different.
Okay.
And that, to me, was one of the coolest things about the game of golf.
Yeah.
That if you like to play golf and you like to look around a little bit, that the same human being could have that big a difference in their artistry.
Right.
And the challenge that he presented those players and how different the challenge was really fantastic. And then the other thing was the Players was out of control.
Yeah.
So it starts in and it's raining and it's raining. We don't have golf for almost 2 days.
That's right.
And they restart.
Yeah.
And when they restart, it's blowing 40.
Yeah.
And we're on, they make a big deal. Now, on golf TV, Azinger's like, well, he drove that like 480 yards. It's like, come on, dude. I get it. You're trying to, use a little hyperbole from time to time. There was no hyperbole that morning, okay? It was blowing 40 in the stadium.
This was Saturday, right?
Saturday morning, first thing they restart. It is barely 40 degrees outside. It's blowing 34 miles an hour. Now, from where that green sits, it's like 1.25 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. So we're a little closer today, but you're talking about the same sort of elements.
Yeah.
And I saw, I think it was
Xander was in the group, right?
Well, I think it was in the first 3 groups.
Scheffler?
So there was 7 of the top 10 golfers in the world came through, and 5 of them put it in the water. But the first group was Scheffler first. He goes long.
Yeah.
No idea. Yeah. Xander goes up. When I tell you he doesn't hit it 2/3 of the way across the pond.
Wow.
He doesn't. And then I think maybe Rahm was the next one and he hit the green. And I was like, and everybody, there was like 10 people out there, myself included. We were all cheering. But like, this is when Scheffler was really hot.
Yeah.
And he looked like he had no clue. And it was, I tell you, as a golf professional, someone who's taught, played the game, seen a lot of different tournaments and under a lot of different weather conditions, that was one of the strangest things I had ever seen in a professional event. It would take me a long time to remove that imprint from my mind.
I love it. You were there Saturday morning.
Oh, man. We ran out there. We ran out there from the media center. We were like, we are not missing this restart. And man, because it wasn't even like they had a couple holes to warm up.
Yeah, no.
It was Scheffler was up first and he was on that tee.
Yeah.
And it was like, good luck, Scotty.
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah.
He didn't get it done that way. So
no, he didn't.
I guess, this is Caddie Network, Under the Strap. Do you have any caddy stories? Have you had caddies throughout your career? Have you done any caddying? I guess give us some of your thoughts on the caddying profession.
So I got into the golf business because I was a bag rat when I was probably 14, 15 years old. Uh-huh. And that also started with caddying. And I caddied before I played. Mm-hmm. And I was caddying for members at this small little private club in New Jersey where I grew up, Central Jersey. And they weren't very good. And I thought to myself, man, this game's got to be easier than this. And so I started playing, and I found out quite quickly that it wasn't that easy. But, I was bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I'd always worked at a golf course. And, fast forward to my life after college, 25 years as a club professional up and down the Eastern Seaboard, probably highlighted with an apprenticeship where I was a golf professional down at Isleworth Country Club in Windermere, Florida from 1998 to 2003, where I got to see the man do his thing, summer 2000.
Unbelievable.
3 majors in a row, 10 wins, $10 million. He's pretty good.
Yes.
Mr.
I want to hear
Woods.
about that.
Yeah,
I do want to hear about that.
Pretty good. But overall, I wish that caddying wasn't as expensive as it is. And I understand why it is.
Okay.
But I wish it wasn't as expensive because I think more kids would get into it and we would have more successful caddy programs. Because all of those middle tier private clubs, those caddy programs are going away because the members can't afford to pay $100 a kid a Saturday and a Sunday morning to play golf, right? And it adds to the golf experience, but not just for the player, but also for the kid. I mean, I think to this day that I'm capable as a speaker, as a public speaker, because I went out with, Mr. Rathouse for 4.5 hours. And he would start asking, Keith, how is school? Yeah. Keith, what do you like? Keith, what do you want to be when you grow up? Keith, what are you studying? Keith, do you play any sports? And those conversations, when you're walking one-on-one with somebody who is basically your parents and is successful because they belong to a private club, I think that helps shape people. I to this day, I've sent my son, who's 14, to a club to be a bag rat and do the same thing and scrub hooks and go through all that, pick the range, and I think that that's an important part. The service industry is an important part, and it's suffering very much since COVID.
Sure.
But the caddy kind of decline in pure numbers nationwide has a lot to do with the fact, I think also with the economics, but I wish more middle tier private clubs could afford to have caddies and not, and a lot of it too isn't just necessarily the economics of the caddy, but it's, if we use carts, then it's X number of dollars to the bottom line to keep the club afloat, maybe during the 2009 recession.
I mean, walking and having a caddy, there's nothing better.
Nothing better.
Yeah. It's such a connection to the game.
Nothing better, it was, the jokes, everything.
Yeah.
It's the best.
You scrub hooks. What's scrubbing hooks?
Oh, well, a golf club looks like a hook.
Okay, yeah.
So scrubbing hooks is when you're a bag rat.
I've done it.
Or a bag rat. I'm sorry. Outside services.
Yeah, outside. I've done the thing. Yeah, the people come in and how was your round, and you clean their clubs, and they maybe throw you $20 or $10.
You take that bag, you hook it with your leg, and you're talking, and you're just scrubbing those things away, and head covers come off under the armpit. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a move that I picked up out on tour, and you get your yardage book out, you're doing stuff, the wind's blowing a little stuff. A maneuver that I picked up at some point along the line is to take the strap of the bag and put it between your legs.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 hands free. And I thought that was a great move. I don't know who I saw do that one time, but I was just like, that's brilliant.
Yeah. There were a lot of times where a tournament would come in and people would just keep handing me a bag. And I felt like, that guy in the grocery store. Like I was at Animal House and they keep throwing him the food. And I didn't know what to do. So you just start like hooking the bags to you.
You improvise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned you worked at Isleworth for 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
5 years. I mean, like you said, 98 to 03.
Yes.
I mean, Tiger Woods had just won the Masters. Lots of professional golfers, members there. You're out there on a daily basis interacting with the number one player on the planet. I guess when you look back on that time, what do you remember about the golf you saw interacting with Tiger? And then you also kind of told me a little bit like you had some opportunities to hang out with him off the golf course too, and just see that he's a guy like any one of the rest of us that puts one pant leg on it.
I mean, I'm just a couple years older than him. Yeah. So, I mean, we gave out the dates, 98 to 03. So we're going back 20 years. He was a guy that was looking for some friends. I mean, he lived in a golf community with a bunch of people that might as well have been 55 plus, right? So at the end of the day, he didn't really have a lot of friends. Yeah. So the fact that, we were all there, we had the common bond of golf. Mm-hmm. We would talk and interact all the time when he was in town. Now, granted, you have to remember a guy like him or Stuart Appleby or Payne Stewart or Mark Ramir, if they go out to the West Coast swing, they were gone for 6 weeks. Uh-huh. It wasn't just like Thanksgiving break and they went away for a week, right? So when those guys were around, specifically Tiger, around the same age, we would talk a lot. Mm-hmm. It might be an NCAA pool or something like that. But I can remember back then that he was playing so well all of the time that people would ask me all the time. They're like, "How good is Tiger at golf?" And this is a famous line of mine that if people have ever heard me before, that they'll remember this. But I said, the only way I can explain it is Tiger Woods is better at golf than I am at breathing. And breathing's kind of important to me. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And he to this day, I've seen him do things with a golf ball I can't explain with physics. Yeah. He could bend it, shape it, do whatever. All of those fun commercials back in the day, the apartment complex, that was one take. The juggling, the famous juggling Nike commercial, right? That was on the second take because the first one, he didn't like it, even though it went fine. And the second one, he started, most people don't notice he starts with his left hand and then he goes over to the right. Just all sorts of fun things. He truly loves the game. Yeah. And you can see it now. And maybe he lost it. Maybe he got a little jaded in the middle there. Maybe he got a little lost on the way. People could do a bunch of podcasts about that. I'm into the golf. I'm into the guy I used to know, but you see it right now with his son, and the way that he's teaching his son, and the way it looks like Charlie appreciates the game and he's having fun, and they're doing all these things together. And I mean, it's imagine if Earl already knew what Tiger's mistakes were going to be, and then he could do it all over again. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really cool to see Tiger caddying for Charlie. And then, I mean, what are you, I mean, everybody's kind of, what is he, 13 years old? Like, it's like, hey, we don't need to prognosticate everything, but his golf swing looks really good and he's putting up some good scores and everything. I mean, have you kind of watched what Charlie's doing with his golf swing right now?
Well, I'll tell you, the golf swing looks like Rory's. Looks a lot like Rory's. Yeah. And his build looks a lot like early Rory on tour after he filled out when he was a teenager. Yeah. So it looks like it definitely looks like they're working on something.
There's potential.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, to this day, the two greatest things that Tiger ever did was he never lost a USGA match. Okay. I mean, think about that. Yeah. I mean, you have to have caddied in some USGA national championships, right? Yeah. I've coached some players in some. You go to those things, it's a free-for-all, right? And you got to get through 36 holes. Yeah. There's always a huge playoff because there's like 150, 160 people there going for 64. They're all great players. Yeah. And then you get into match play. A guy could get hot. Yeah. Girl could get hot, whatever it may be, and they go on a run. And he did it for 6 straight years. Yeah. Yeah. And to me, either that or the cut streak.
Those are the two best records.
I just can't ever see either one of those being broken.
Was it that he was able to turn it on when he had to, or that people would wither at his presence, or is it a combination of both? I mean, because he had to build up that presence, in the first place. But I mean, there was that factor existed too, obviously.
You know better than anybody because you've worked for these gentlemen, right? They're really, really good at golf. Yeah. Okay, they're exceptionally good at golf. They're not all going to wither. Yeah. Some of them are just too dumb to wither, right? They don't realize that this guy's coming down the stretch, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's a combination of the two things you said is
but a little more excellence, maybe.
Well, I tell you what, he was definitely, when he came up, he was not popular because he had a little extra work ethic, whereas some guys where they were going from tournament to tournament, if I miss a cut, I know I'll still get my card this year. Yeah. And that wasn't good enough for him. Yeah. And when he elevated that level of expectation. And I think it was the Byron Nelson, his second or third year, when he said, yeah, I won this year with my B game. And that upset a lot of people. But at the same time, that made a generation that followed him just absolutely want to be him.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a lot of the reason why what we're seeing right now is happening.
For sure. You know, and then when you look at the guys that are going to be unbelievable this week, to take it back to Sea Island, you're really good iron players. So Tony's gone, right? But you have your Tom Hoagies or your former Loop, Seamus Power. I mean, these guys that can really, really strike an iron crisply. Yeah. And then these are the guys that are going to excel this week. I love a guy like an Andrew Putnam, you know, great iron player, great putter, right? Yes. So that's your combo this week. Who are those guys, right? Yeah. Tom Hoagie's a top 20 putter in the field, and he's probably without Tony, he's probably the best iron player in the field, right? Yeah. So Taylor Montgomery, guy who strikes the ball great and has been on a tear with the putter all full, and he's a rookie, you know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, he helped create this desire that everyone has to kind of chase, you know, immortality. With the golf swing.
Yeah, winning. He coined that phrase of like, you know, I just want to get in contention this week. That's my goal. You know, like you never heard anybody say that before. And now that's what everybody says. You know, well, the goal is just to be in the mix on the back nine. You had said too, it's really interesting when you look at his schedule. He played a little bit earlier this year, and now he's going to play 3 times in December, maybe. You know, you're looking at his tournament, the father-son, and then, he's got the match going as well. Well,
if you go back to 2020 with Charlie, the first PNC with Charlie, parent-child, right? Then he doesn't play the accident, right? Because he has back surgery after that. The famous interview with Nance, the next day he has the accident, or 2 days later he has the accident, okay? He doesn't play all of 21. Yeah. He comes back, plays the Masters. Yeah. Makes the cut at the Masters, play 4 rounds, but the weekend was no good. Fatigue, huge issue, walking those hills. Then he goes to Tulsa, plays Saturday morning, makes the cut, plays Saturday morning, withdraws. Says no dice for the country club, which was smart because that was very, very hilly. And then he goes, I can walk St. Andrews and I want to be there for the 150th Open Championship. You can see all that history of golf, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't make the cut there. So he's played, 3, 7, 9 rounds since the PNC in 2020. Right. And now he's slated to play 7 rounds in the month of December.
Yeah. When all the eyeballs are going to be on it too, with this year of PGA and Live and everybody's on break and he's like, here I come.
Yeah.
That's going to be some good TV.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, I think he likes the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he does. And I think that, you know, what he's helped build for the last 20 years, and Rory alluded to this in Wilmington when I was there at the BMW. And he said, you know, we've kind of been lazy just following Tiger around and having him be, you know, the North Star for the PGA Tour for 20 years. Well, he's like, well, Tiger's done. Right. And somebody else needs to step up, or a couple of us need to step up. Right. And, you know, in many ways, Live's going to be great for all these elevated events and for all the fun and the things that we're going to get to cover and try to predict and have some fun with. And look what it's doing for the ladies sport. Yeah. You know, this week, the CMA Group Tour Championship, $7 million purse, $2 million for first place. For the first time ever, they're going to have a lady that's going to finish over $3 million in earnings. They're going to have probably 8 to 10 ladies finished with almost over $2 million in earnings. Yeah. You know, all of this stuff, the trend is our friend. And I just can't say enough good things about 20 years of Tiger Woods. I mean, it's paying off.
Absolutely.
I think I don't know, maybe seeing Charlie play so well has also, you know, lit a little fire.
But you think that he's going to, if this, you know, December goes nicely for him, you're feeling like we might see him a little bit more than we saw him this year, next year playing competitively.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I have reasons for saying that, you know, we'll keep between me and you, but we'll keep it under the strap. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think he's got a vested interest in what's going on. I think down the road in 24, he has the Arena League that's starting with Rory. I think all of these things, he's had some downtime because as much as he loves to train and do everything, people like that can't move around, their brain's still moving. Right. So I think that he was working on some things and, you know,
he wants to see what happens. Yeah. But he doesn't show up if he can't compete either.
I don't know. Anymore, I don't know. 150th Open Championship, I think he was there because he wanted to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
And he wasn't there to win, but he wanted to be there.
But he knew he could play the golf course too.
He knew he could play the golf course. Yeah.
And the conditions that week maybe didn't really work to his favor in terms of where he was maybe at health-wise.
Yeah, I don't think, I think what was the conversation that he had with Jack that leaked out during the Champions Dinner at Augusta, where Jack said, how are you feeling? And he said, well, I went to the doctor and I said, I'm in pain. And he goes, you're going to be in pain for a while. He said, will the pain be different if I play or I don't play? He said, no. He goes, well, I'm going to go play. Why wouldn't I? Right. Okay. So that kind of gives you an insight to where he was at that period through 2022. And let's see where he is in 2023. Gotcha. The idea that he played 3 times in almost 2 years and he's going to play 3 times in the month coming up tells you a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. So you mentioned the ladies and you're doing Read the Line. And you've been killing it with the ladies. Like you've been hitting winners on a very regular basis. I subscribe to the newsletter. If people don't, they should. Tell me a little bit about your approach to the golf gambling. I mean, this is a big space growing right now. A lot of people are paying attention. Like, how do you go about handicapping a tournament and finding who you think is going to win that week?
So I'm really happy you asked me this question. Not just because I can say, hey, go to readtheline.com and subscribe. Yeah. Hey, try me for free, right? If not, what's $10 a month? Right. We've had a nice return this year on outrights, to say the least. We have 12 winners, half of which LPGA, half of which the PGA Tour. I think what's fun about what I'm doing, and mind you, I treat this very seriously, as I did my job as an instructor, as a tournament coordinator, as a merchandiser, all the different things, all the different hats that I wore as a PGA professional. And I'm still a PGA.
And you still are.
I'm still a PGA member. I'm just now in golf media. And, things evolve. And, at the end of the day, I approach my predictions or handicapping a golf event much like I would as if I was going to play the tournament.
Okay.
All right. Or if I was going to coach you to go play in it. Or if you and I were best friends and you were going to go caddy this week for Matthias, and I would say, hey, these are the things I would look at, like we were talking about at dinner.
Yep.
All right. I start with the golf course. Now, here's the thing. If you go to golf Twitter and everything, everyone starts with the numbers. Everyone's like, oh, I'm on this website or I'm this, I'm PGA Tour.com and blah, blah, blah. And, all these other things. I don't go to the numbers first. I need to know the golf course. I want to know the designer. I want to look at the topography of the golf course. I want to say the way it moves, the way the elevation changes, all of those things. Then I want to know the agronomy.
Okay. What kind of grass are we playing on?
Then I want to know the history of the golf course, right? How long has the tournament been there?
Yeah.
Right? What kind of history do we have? What kind of tournaments have played out there? Now I start to look at numbers because now I'm going to start to look at the people that won there. Okay. So now I'm going to start to look at horses for courses. All right. Then my next stage. So now we're like 4 spirals down in Dante's Inferno here, right? So now I'm to the point where I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start looking at recent form.
Okay.
I still haven't looked at, the different things, like who's popping with the putter or who's hot on approach or anything, right? That's like 5th stage for me. Whereas for a lot of people, that's their first thing that they do because they don't understand how the game is played or they don't know how to manage a golf course like you would or like I would from either me playing or you caddying for the best players in the world, right? And then after that, then I look at the odds. Because if you just start with the odds or the analytics, they will skew your perception. And I don't guess, right? And we contend week after week, and there's a reason for that. Because there's a way to play a golf course successfully. Yeah. And we talked earlier about Gil Hans and the way he designed Southern Hills. Well, the guy that was going to win that golf tournament was going to be a little bit different than the guy that was going to win at the country club.
Yeah.
And it showed, right, to a certain extent. I know Matt Fitzpatrick was competitive on both. But at the end of the day, right, we ended up with 2 different kinds of champions.
I actually hit both winners on those 2. Were you?
I hit the second.
You hit Fitzpatrick.
I hit the second. I had Cam Young.
Yeah, and he
80
was in
to
the
1.
match.
I got 70 holes. Yeah. I got 70 holes in. If it was a 70-hole tournament, it would have been good. But that's my approach. That's my approach. So I start with the golf course. And you being a looper, right? And someone who really appreciates the golf course and the landscape and the design and the challenge it presents, right? I look at those different statistics, kind of the presentation of it all, right? And then I get to the statistics further down the road because if you just look at the numbers, the books and everything, they're going to skew the way you look at things, right? As soon as you go up and you're like, wow, that guy was Taylor Montgomery. He was good last week, and then his odds are higher this week. Oh, he must not be good for this golf course. Well, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know? You can let the guy at DraftKings figure that out?
Yeah.
Right? There's no way, right? That's not how it works. We need to figure that out. And that comes from being, for me, a guy that spent his whole life on a golf course. Knowing golf.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it. And it's been successful, and I can't see why I wouldn't continue to be successful.
Well, you've altered my process a little bit and just talk to you about this right now, because I feel like I go to the stats too quickly. One thing that I've gotten hung up on a little bit recently, and this has been a total game changer for me. I mean, being a guy that, for 18 years, caddy week in and week out for guys. Yep. And I always tell people about this. Like, I show up as a caddy every week. You show up and you go like, my guy's going to win this week. Or maybe you won't think that he's going to win this week, but you're like all in on your guy for that week because this is what I do and he's my horse. And what happens when you kind of pull back and look at it is like, some guys, they ain't cut out for that place. And, making a cut might be a pretty good, accomplishment for them there. A top 20 is a little bit more their ceiling. And so it's been interesting for me to kind of pull back and kind of look at it from a different window. But I've kind of gotten too into the stats, I think, when I've been breaking these down. But one thing that I have noticed
real quick right there.
Yeah.
If you were going to go caddy for somebody at sea level and at elevation, would you treat it the same way?
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's as simple as it can be. And folks, if you don't understand what that means, at elevation, the golf ball will carry 5, 10, 15%, depending how high you are above sea level, further, right? So your analysis or your breakdown of how your player who hits the ball the same distance all the time is going to play different holes would be totally different. Right. And you have to look at it that way. The golf course is the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're playing the course. Yeah. The other thing that I've gotten too hung up on that I really admire in people that are really good at handicapping tournaments is that sometimes I get too hung up on the form or the past history on the course. I'm really intrigued when people say, like for last week, I mean, Tony, there wasn't a lot to go on with Tony last week because he had been off since the President's Cup, and this was his first or second start. He went down to Mexico, misses the cut at a place that he's probably played well before. I don't know, but
he had good history there.
Good history there. Didn't even sniff it, and then he goes the next week, and you're like, well, he's not in good form. He's not going to play well. And then it ended up being a good course for him. And the form didn't matter. But maybe he still had good form from, over a longer period of time, but the current form didn't matter. And then the fit was actually really good. And Tony showed up.
Well, so why was the fit good?
Yeah.
Because you needed to be, an awesome driver of the golf ball.
Long.
And Tony Finau, you had to be long, and you had to be a great driver of the golf ball. We always know Tony can do that. Mm-hmm. Can Tony gain 8 shots with the putter?
Right.
Well, can anyone do that on any given week?
Right.
Certain good putters can. We didn't know that part was coming, but we all would have been there on the ball striking part. Mm-hmm. Would the putter take off? We don't know. And there's always a recency bias. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's again why you can't go to the book first. If you go to the book first, they're just going to lead you down a path.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to go to the golf course and you've got to come up with your own idea. Even if you don't want to read one of us or follow the Caddie Network. I mean, I can't see why you wouldn't. Yeah. But even if you don't want to do those things, come up with your own ideas before you click on DraftKings or FanDuel or something, and then look and then go, wow, they just cemented my opinion and validated it, or I was way off.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes good sense. I like that. All right. What is your, and I wanted to say too, with the golf gambling too, it's a pretty cool week because we've got, you're here.
Yeah.
Dave Barnett from the Tour Junkies is coming down tomorrow. Yeah. And Rick Gaiman's in town this week doing stuff for CBS Sports for Thursday and Friday. So this has been really cool for me. I'm down here. I'm seeing all my buddies caddy with, but then all these other people that I've been able to meet, in the last year or two over the internet and stuff. And everybody's here this week.
It's a sign of the times, I'm telling you, because the idea that all of those people were doing satellite work.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, the location helps, but it doesn't for Rick. He's from Vegas. I'm from Jersey, from New York City area, right? You're from Omaha, right? So all of a sudden, right, the world is starting to pay attention to the fact that betting on golf, right, is going to introduce more people, get more people engaged in the game. I'm a golf professional, folks. Yeah. Like my mission in life is to grow the game. Sorry, Greg Norman, but it's not yours. Okay. It's just not, right? You go fly helicopters.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a little much.
At the end of the day, like that's what I got up every day, and fought through frost delays or always got up there and took care of ladies day or the member or junior golf or all of those different things. Right. And all those other guys are into golf for all the same reasons. And we're humanizing golf betting, right? This isn't Tony Soprano. This isn't Rodney Dangerfield and Caddyshack. Moose Rocco, show the judges well. Right? Like all these things. These are good guys that are coming up with great storylines, and more people like Topgolf are getting engaged in the game. And as a PGA Pro, card carrying member, I couldn't be more excited about the direction of things are going. When all these guys come together this week, we should get a microphone out and just have it out, because I think that the different perspectives that they would come from would be really interesting. Yours, mine, as a green grass operator, Rick as basically a show host, right, in golf, and as a media personality, the tour junkie guys as fans, and then they grow a business out of it. I mean, all of these things. I mean, the levels of engagement that we could touch upon and the way the consumer can digest it. I mean, it's great for the game. Because no offense, right? There just aren't a lot of people that are into the golf channel.
Right.
But this they're into.
Yeah, no, if there ever was an opportunity, this was it. So Thursday night, maybe that sounds like we should maybe just get that one.
We should totally get
get that one going. All right. Yeah. A few things we'll get you out of here. What's your top tip for amateur golfers? Just what's your go-to generic, just kind of like for the average golfer out there? What would you tell them to improve their game?
Two things. One would be static, and that is you got to learn how to line up to the golf ball.
Okay. Love that.
They have to learn to line up to the golf ball. And if you don't have a stick or something to lay down a club. Okay. Lay down your longest iron or hybrid in your bag and point that on the line, which is parallel left of your target line. Oh, if you're righty, it's to the side of your target line, and get your body lined up, like railroad tracks that don't meet.
Yep.
Because if the tracks meet, there's a train crash, and those are not good, right? And the other thing is you got to practice short putting.
Okay.
And the best way to practice putting is to practice straight putts.
Okay.
I love watching people. Whenever I would give a putting lesson, I would take them to a spot on the practice green at the club that I was at that I knew the putt was dead straight, and I would watch them miss the hole. And I said, do you realize this putt is straight? You can't hit it straight. And I say, every putt is a straight putt. And they said, no, it's not. They all curve. I said, no, you pick a spot and you hit it straight to the spot, and the land curves it. Right. So if you could do those two things, if you could hit hit a putt straight, and you knew where you were aligning your body.
So start lines is huge. And a lot of stuff just falls into place.
Body line.
You get that stuff.
You got to know where that toe line is.
Yeah,
it's huge.
I like that. Okay, so then who's your pick this week for the Sea Island RSM? I mean, and I know you're on Team Schwab this week, like myself.
Yes.
You're going to hurt my feelings if you go somewhere else. I will say 200 to 1, some nice Christmas money, but go ahead.
I've mentioned a couple guys so far that I like. I certainly like Tom Hoagie.
Yes.
And
some good odds on Tom Hoagie. He's still as good a form as he's in. He's at like 30 to 1.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you look at the winning odds over just the last 5 years, I think it's 196 to 1.
Yeah,
they've been thrown off, but over the 12 years, it's 120 to 1. This has been a place where guys win. They might have their first win. Yeah. Definitely some long shots happen. It doesn't seem to be happening on the PGA Tour right now, and I think that has a lot to do with the evolution of the Corn Ferry player as they come up. That there's not as many. Like it's just these fields are so deep. They're so deep. You'll get some guys in that 60, 70, 80 range, but that's the best you're really going to do. This whole year, I mean, what do we have? 2 guys?
Yeah.
And this is in 47 events. So Sepp and JJ, right? That were deep odds, right? Yeah. 2, right?
Okay. So you said Hoagie and Putnam.
Yeah. I'm going to save that one for last. There's a guy, we talked a lot about this too. They've played a lot of amateur championships here.
Yeah.
Okay. The Jones Cup. And the SEC Championship plays here at least every other year, if not every third year.
Yeah.
And the name that I love there, and you mentioned him earlier, is Davis Thompson. Okay?
Yes.
The Jones Cup. In his last 5 Jones Cups, ready for this?
Yeah.
2nd, 1st, 2nd, 15th, 4th.
Wow.
Okay? Now, that's played at Ocean Forest. It's not played at Seaside and Plantation. But the last time in 2019 he played in the SEC Championship here, he finished 4th.
Yeah.
But Ocean Forest is the perfect symmetry between Plantation, being inland, a little more tree lined, right? still the same Bermuda grass, grainy greens,
Yeah.
and then the openness at the certain holes at Ocean Forest where, they play the Walker Cup there. They play the Jones Cup there every year. So I tell you, if you could play good at Ocean Forest, which is harder than Seaside,
Okay.
then you could definitely play Seaside. I played them all, and I'm telling you, Davis Thompson, he's been playing good lately. And I got one more guy.
He's at 101. But on Davis Thompson, just on the Jones Cup,
Yep.
Cup thing, which is interesting that might apply to this week. Today I was out there. I mean, Tuesday, it was Chamber of Commerce. I mean, it was 70 degrees, light breeze. It was unbelievable day. Now, tomorrow, I don't know if it starts, but at least on Thursday, north wind, 40, 50 degrees. And when you come play the Jones Cup in March, I don't know where the wind's coming from, but it's 40, 50 degrees. I mean, it's even worse. It sounds like I was talking to Matthias. It's like 30 degree. It's beanie season. Like if he's putting those results out in that kind of weather, he's obviously a mutter, which is what you're going to need to be a little bit this week. Yeah,
he's definitely a ball striker, and he can putt these greens.
Okay.
Because putting on these greens, it's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little different. And if you're a heritage guy and can do that, that's great. But these coastal Bermuda grass greens like this, it's even different than what they were doing last week. So at the end of the day, I think that I like him. And my last guy is a guy that plays Bermuda grass all the time. Mm-hmm. He lives on an island, so he's dealing with coastal Bermuda all the time.
Okay.
Right? English guy.
Does he live on this island?
He does not live on this island.
But he lives on an island.
If you look at the history, not a lot of the Sea Island Mafia wins.
The Mafia.
And I'll tell you, here's why. You can't have fun at your own party house.
It's tough to win at home.
All right. If your neighbor is having a cookout and you go over there with your cooler and you are camped out for the day, and then like a tree falls over or some kid's crying or whatever, you don't think twice about it. It's in your house. You can't have any fun. These guys are hosting this week. There's sponsors things to do. They have got 3 guys living in their house. They got 6 of you living in there. They got guys, they got coaches they're dealing with, right? So that's not any fun,
hard,
right?
Yeah.
This is a destination. There's not a bunch of hotels around here. We're on an island.
Yeah.
So that's difficult for them. That's why I think that there's a lot of distractions for those guys versus somebody who played in the SEC or was very, very good, or like my last pick, Justin Rose. Woo. Okay. Jay Rose. I loved him going into Mexico. Talked to his coach, redoing the golf swing, walked 9 holes with him in Tulsa, walked 9 holes with him at the country club. What I see, I like.
Okay.
He's going to get back there. He is going to be, if there was a most improved award, not that he really needs to improve, but I'm telling you, 2023, I'm all over Jay Rose. I don't know that he'll still get to top 10 in the world because of his age, but I think he'll get top 25 again, and he's definitely going to win. And in a field like this, where last year he finished, 12th? Okay. And he hasn't played here often. Lives out in Albany, the Bahamas, other than the apartment, the flat in London, right? Yep. So, he's used to this type of graininess in the grass. Yeah. And for some reason, he plays really good on places like Fazio golf courses, with the chipping areas and everything. Yeah. And he's got a great short game, good pitcher of the golf ball, really great iron player, gets the ball and play off the tee, which is all you need to do here. And his putting stats, go look them up. They're really solid right now. And Bermuda grass is his best grass to putt on. So
what are his odds this week?
45. Plus
so
4,500
discount on him because he's a closer. I was interested to see. I was scrolling tonight, and Jason Day, who's been playing very good the last month or so, made a caddy change for this week, and he's got Tim Tucker on the bag this week.
Oh, really?
A little like, hey, come on in. How you doing? Let's finish the season. Timmy Tucker getting the bullpen call. So that I don't know if that entices people on that, but those caddy changes sometimes they can make a difference. Last minute kind of perk a guy up a little bit. So
we can have conversations. I mean, from the player perspective, switching that up, getting a little strange going, and when you're even playing pretty good is interesting to me.
Yeah,
we could talk about.
We'll monitor that this week. Well, okay, so I got 4 more to get you out of here. Who's going to win the match? We talked about the match earlier. It's Tiger and Rory.
Yeah.
Versus JT and Spieth. Okay, who's going to win the match?
Well, the odds right now are minus 120 for the young kids.
Okay.
JT and Spieth.
And where are we playing this again?
The same place where the ladies played last week, Pelican Golf Club in Tampa. And everyone's like, what is Pelican Golf Club? Where is this place? Whatever. I don't know. One of their members is Fred Ridley. Figure it out. Okay. He's the chairman of Augusta National. You kidding me? Right? This place is a pimp joint down there in Tampa. And obviously these guys are going to go play 12 holes there.
Is it 12?
12 holes under the lights.
Tiger, so they're moderating on the tee, and Tiger's like, we're only doing 12 holes.
Oh, okay. What are Tiger's issues right now in golf? Right?
Walking and playing a long amount of time.
Walking and playing a lot of time. So we're going to give him 12 holes in a cart under the lights, right? So he's got all day.
I love that.
He's got all day to warm up his back, right? He doesn't have to wake up at 3 a.m. for 7:30 stupid tee time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Notice to everyone in golf, just give Tiger the PM wave, okay? No one's gonna mind, and if they complain, they don't get it,
PM,
right?
okay.
The PM. Give him that. It's a little known, wave, but it's good for Tiger, right? I mean, come on. It's at the end of the day, and then the PNC, 36 holes over 2 days. Yeah. In an Orlando resort golf course in a cart.
With a cart.
Right? But no. So you asked who's going to win the match?
Yeah, the match.
Tiger, Rory.
You like Tiger, Rory.
Yep.
And I mean, that's like, but it's going to be entertaining because Spieth and JT are playing good right now. And I think no caddies for that, I heard too.
I mean, I'm not sure that the caddies would really matter.
Probably.
I mean, you know what? It would matter to JT because all the talking that Spieth does to Michael, he's going to do to JT now, and that may be why they don't win.
Oh,
right? He's just going to talk his ear off. But here's the thing: there's something going on. There's a bromance going on between Rory and Tiger,
right.
And
that might make JT a little jealous because they're kind of boys too.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But here's the thing, right? He's playing 3 times in December.
Yeah,
folks.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't talk to people for 6 months at a time. Yeah. And now all of a sudden we're like, bing, bing, bing. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do you think he feels like?
Mm-hmm.
He's ready to roll.
Yeah, he could say no if he wanted to. Yeah.
And not for nothing, but the tour that he helped build, has gone under a lot of second guessing, pressure, slander, questioning, all of these things, right? Tiger's a very, very proud individual. I know that. And the people that have been around him, you can sense that in seconds, okay? He's back, baby. And for all of us and for the crew that gets together on Thursday night and whatever we record, right? I'm telling you, I've been there when it's live and there ain't nothing like when it's live, baby. I love it. But if he's back, right? If the big cat is back, watch out.
Okay.
Because he doesn't come for second.
Okay. No, he doesn't.
1 leg or 2.
Yeah.
Right?
I like it.
He'll be like a pirate with a peg leg. He'll just walk up and he'll steal from everybody. You watch. Right?
I love it.
All right. Give me another question.
All right. So what's your favorite course that you've ever played?
Pine Valley.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah. It's shrine to golf.
Yeah. Have you played it more than once?
Yes.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day. I think it was Drew Stoltz was saying he got to play it the other day, and he played it in the wind for the first time, and he said, "Oh, that was a different deal."
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's nice.
My buddy of mine played it last year.
Yeah.
What's one that you'd like to play that you haven't played?
Cypress.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one.
I haven't played much golf on the West Coast. I've played some good ones, but I haven't played there, and it's just one of those things. It seems like when you get in the top 5 or the top 10 in the country, it's a lot about the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot about the people that are involved. Golf was a social game before it was a competitive game. And it's the men and women of these communities that build these places and they make them happen and they make them so special. That's not to say that someone could design a Pine Valley, but when you go there and you're in the borough of Pine Valley, it's a pretty neat thing. It would be nice as a PGA pro that more people could experience some of those things, but there's a lot of places like that all over the country that are special, that are run by some very special people. And I think that in and of itself, get as many golf experience, goes back to the caddy question, get as many golf experiences as you can.
Yeah. Well, one I got to play this fall, I got the hat on right now, is Landmand, which is just open to acclaim in northern Nebraska. Amazing golf course by the King Collins guys. Mm-hmm. Really good. And then you talk about top 10s, I'll have to have you to Nebraska sometime. We'll go play Sand Hills.
Oh.
And that place is pretty damn cool.
2 years ago, I played LACC.
Yeah.
And
U.S. Open next summer. You're going to have an edge there. We got to come to read the line for that week for sure.
That one was, I got home from that trip and I talked to my wife and she goes, "How was that one?" And I go, and she always asks. And we've been married a long time. In fact, today, 19 years. Yeah. So she's heard a lot of golf stories and me yapping over the years. And I came back from that one and she goes, "How was that LA course?" And I said, "When we win Powerball, I go, that's the first course I'm going to join. And she was like, that good, huh? I was like,
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
The swagger of that place.
Yeah.
Man, it was like Entourage on steroids.
Exactly.
It was unbelievable. It was so good.
No cameras, Playboy Mansions right there on the side. What do you think that's going to be like next summer for the guys? Is that going to be a rude awakening, a fun deal? Like
I think it's going to be a fun deal.
Yeah.
I think people need to treat it as a fun deal. I think the USGA is doing it for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
Will it be a US Open test like we're used to at Oakmont?
Right.
I don't think so, but I think that that's also a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
You know, as we were talking here, one thing we need to get back to at some point, and I know I owe you, and you can't put me on the spot right now, but you've put out some good music this year with your rapping. I know I owe you a rap, so I need to get back to you on that before the week is over. Last question.
We'll do one together sometime.
Yeah, well, we do. We need to throw down. Last question. Hey, what would be the top of the 4 majors? Which one would you want to win the most if you're playing?
Oh, the Open Championship.
Okay. Yeah, you're a purist. I like that. Okay, so
it's just
I've never caddied the Open. I hear the 18th. What would it be at St. Andrews? Is that it, or it doesn't really matter?
I mean, that would be ideal.
Ideal.
You know, and I get that I'm a PGA member, and I should maybe
say the PGA Championship.
I should say the PGA Championship maybe should be like number 2. And I get that I was born in America, that the Masters or the US Open or something like that.
Yeah.
But I can remember growing up, like we all grew up, we have this bond with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember growing up as a kid, and I remember, just really getting into the game, and like in 87, like seeing Faldo at Muirfield, and then like, in the morning, and waking up in the morning, and it was happening. And it was like the strangest thing. And they're wearing sweaters, and it was July. And it was just such an attraction in my mind to the style of Seve, and, these crazy things that were going on over there, and the way that the game was played.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to see some of that this week. And this is a great question if we're to end on, because at Seaside, you can play a lot of golf on the ground. And golf's beautiful when it's played on the ground. Anyone can play it in the air. But when you can really control the ball on the ground, then you've done something special. And in all these moments that we've ever seen, the greatest ones in the world, whether it's Gary Koch, better than most, or a Seve chip in, or a great Lee Trevino shot, or, any of these other great Jack Nicklaus memories, or Tiger memories, and all these different things, right? The ball's always on the ground for a while, right? No one just hoops it like, Steph Curry hitting a 3.
Right.
And I think that the natural roots of the game, and the way that we're getting back to that a lot over here. I mean, if you look at the country club, or the way that Southern Hills played, or the way LACC we just talked about is going to play, they're going to play it more on the ground.
Firmer.
And the players are forced to use the ground more, and the unpredictability of that. Yeah. And it helps control scoring, and it makes for some unbelievable theater. And if you love the game as much as you and I do, I mean, I think that's really special. So I'd go Open Championship. Because I knew Tiger, I've had all 4 trophies in front of me, right? And of all of them, I mean, you can't drink out of the Masters trophy, right? The clubhouse, right? So you got the jacket, great jacket. I got a lot of jackets, right? You can't drink from the Wanamaker. I mean, you and I would take us all night, right? That would be a mess, right? The claret jug, it's pretty cool. It's got some dents, it's got some stories.
It's a good trophy. You're interested. There is a part B to this question, but you talked about it, ball being on the ground, and I've talked to people about Augusta, and I had a chance to caddy the Masters one time, but the fact that the roars build, and a lot of time, you have to hit these putts where you're kind of playing this high break, and it's gently coming down, and it's just dramatic. That's a great point that you make about the ball kind of being on the ground and that drama building that way.
Phil's putt.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Right. Yeah. In your life. Think about all those balls on the ground.
Yeah. So here's the question then. Open Championship, St. Andrews. You're leading going into the final round. I've been caddying for you all week. We've been having a great week.
All right.
I decided to go out on the town the night before. We got a late tee time. I maybe had a couple too many pops. I trip and fall. I break my leg. I can't go on the final round. Okay. So you have the opportunity to call anyone in the world to caddy for you the final round of the Open Championship to get you across the finish line with the 1-shot lead. Who are you going to call?
Man, there was a lot of buildup, and it was a great question. Oh,
it can be anybody. It could be a pro caddy. It can be somebody that knows caddy, you really well.
Anybody,
just somebody that you feel like is gonna, do what a caddy can do to help you to be a little difference maker for you.
Well, in many ways, probably the best person that can do it, would be one of my mentors in the golf business. And I'll go back and I'll pick Gregor Jameson, who was the director of golf at Isleworth.
Yep.
And at the formative years of my professional career back in my 20s, he was there. And when we all lose our way, and he put me back on the path. And, his father, Robert Jameson, was the director of golf at Turnberry and put Turnberry on the map.
Yep.
Okay. And Gregor grew up there, and he built Lake Nona and Isleworth down there in Orlando. And he just recently retired. And I would give him a call. Yeah. And not just because he's from Scotland, born and raised, and the symmetry and all that. And he'd probably be very helpful.
Yeah.
But when it comes to golf, there's been no better mentor in my life. And if I need a mentor in a special occasion, I still call him to this day. Yeah. So why wouldn't I call him that morning?
Perfect. That's a great answer.
And he'd be there on time.
Yeah. Keith, thanks for joining me. This has been fun.
You know what, John, being friends with you just doesn't get any better, my friend.
Dude, it's been a great year.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks. It's great to end up with you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddie Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Radhouse. Thank you for listening.